all right. What's going on? What's going on, everybody out there? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional. My co-host, he is en route right now. En route right now. He is on his way. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got the brother Abdullah Bay in the building. Round of applause. Hey, thanks to everybody in the chat right now. 2 people in the chat. I really appreciate those 2 people. Make yourself known. If that's a bin, let me know. If that's Awareness Daily, let me know. Talk to me in the chat. Talk to me in the chat. Anyway, let's talk. Brother Abdullah Bay. We're talking about the dehumanization through race and color. And if you could break down your title, explain your title before we go into it.
As far as me, my name?
No, your title, how race and color been used.
Oh, my title, you know what? I got you. Well, that is that'll be done during the course, but yeah, so the dehumanization of through race and color, I'm going to explain what that is and explain the origin of race, the constructive meaning that's been given to the word color, and how this false thought paradigm has dehumanized us as a people, meaning has actually removed our national characteristics. So I'm going to definitely get into that in more detail as we go through the
podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I want to let's talk about it a little brief history. I met the brother years back. I think it's like 06, 07. He was, from what I remember, he was with Taj and Roz.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you got like a few books. In fact, I have some of your material downstairs. I wish I would have brought it up, man. Damn. Very helpful etymology book. He's the author of a few books, and also classes. I've taken classes with him there, building about etymology and breaking down words. Moorish history, Moorish science. What else? I think
the astronomy are what is people call Masonic symbols.
Okay.
They're actually measurement tools and devices, but I actually explained the astronomical use application of them.
Okay.
That's in my book, The Masonic Compass of Square and the Connection to Measurement and Timekeeping.
Nice. Now, also, I think you were in attendance when me and Knowledge Eternal from the Clock of Destiny, also 5% Nation, when we had a unity rally between, it was Roz there, Nakeem Bay there, Jelani there, man, C. Ferguson Ill from the Kirkman Bay faction, and I think you were in attendance there. We were in a Masonic lodge. We went upstairs.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. That was way back in the day.
Yeah, that was yes.
Yeah, that was way back. But now, fast forward 2025, you're on it. I'm still doing the work, but now I'm doing the work virtually.
Hey, you're still doing the work, brother. Greatly appreciate your steadfastness, your commitment, and your humanitarian love that you have for our people.
Indeed. Same to you, brother. Really appreciate you. Now, let's just talk about your history a little bit, and then we'll go more into the podcast. So now, from what I remember, you're from Philadelphia?
Camden. I live in Philly, but I'm born and raised across the bridge.
Camden. Okay, you were born and raised in Camden, and you moved to Philadelphia. And what was your upbringing like? How did you end up in Moorish science in that world?
Well, I was always curious about where words came from. I remember because I've been studying etymology since 1998, and I recall when I was 7, 8 years old, staring out my window and just wondering. And I remember asking this question to myself: where did the word tree come from? And it's just so fitting that I study etymology now. And I'm at 7, 8 years old. I'm asking the question to myself: where did the word tree come from? Why is it called a tree? And I would, and I'm like, wow. So I was always curious, and one of my favorite subjects was English. When I was in school, I was a decent speller. I used to win. I used to place high in spelling bees in school, and so that was interesting. I was among Europeans, a lot of Europeans. When I from ninth grade all the way to graduate school, because I went to a predominantly European high school. Even though I was bused. I took the bus to go to school, so I didn't go to high school in Camden. I went to Cannon Catholic Cherry Hill High School, and the reason why it's called Cannon Catholic Cherry Hill High School because it was in Camden, and it burned down, and they relocated to Cherry Hill. So I was you know I was among a lot of Europeans from high school, from ninth grade to graduate school.
Okay. Okay. So how was that experience? Like going to school with a lot of Europeans where there's like racism there, and maybe that sparked your interest to think, delve more into like history and things like that.
Yeah, what I observed with is that the Europeans kept to themselves, and the Moors classified as black kept to them. It was that. So we hung out, and like Moors classified as black hung out. Because it was about 90% Europeans and 10% Moor classified as Negro colored black.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't where it was 99.5% European. It was like about 10% of us and 90% of them.
Got you. Got
Mhm.
you. So there was some kind of racial tension at points.
At times you had Moors classified as Puerto Ricans, Moors classified as blacks. They were at that time they would call it, they would say race riots. There would be like blacks against Puerto Ricans, right? Type thing that went on too, because it was few years, like I said, it was like I said, the 10% was more classified as black and Puerto Ricans, and the 90% was Europeans.
Got you. Got you.
Mhm.
And around that time, we're talking around what time period? We're
That
talking
was
about
that was 80, 83 to 87.
80, 80.
83 to 87 I was in high school. Then
Okay.
college from 87 to 91. Graduate school from 91 to 93.
Okay. And what college did you go to?
Glasgow State College, now Rowan University. And
Okay.
then I went on to the Rutgers University Graduate School of Social Work in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Nice. Okay.
Mhm.
What did you major in?
Sociology. And then I got a master's in social work at the Graduate School of Sociology,
Nice.
Rutgers
Nice.
University. Mhm.
That's peace. So, I always ask this question because, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I know, like me personally, I was impacted by the crack era in the 80s and the 90s. So, did you experience that part of history and, that era?
Not so. I was. My mother was strict, and so we was on curfew. I remember. I got to tell the story. I got to tell it. Don't laugh at me, but
Okay.
it's true. It's true. It's true. So don't laugh, y'all. Don't laugh, because my students laughed at me. You know what I mean? My students would laugh when I substituted. They would laugh because they could be out there in ninth grade and they can hang out at 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, whoa, what? My curfew, my senior year in high school was 10 o'clock. My senior, I'm 18 years old. Senior in high school, curfew was 10 o'clock. My mom did not play. I recall, I never forget this. I was 10 minutes late. I wish I was lying. I wish I was lying. I was 10 minutes late. Open the door. I got the key. My mom is standing at the door with a belt.
Wow.
At 18 years old, senior in high school, about to graduate from high school, 2 months or 3 months from graduation. I was dating a sister, and I was late, 10 minutes late. My mom did not play. Mm. And you know what? I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I do.
Right. She did.
So I wanted to convey that story. It's a true story, my brothers and sisters. I am not making that up.
Wow. Shouts out to mom. Thank you, mom, for doing that.
Yeah. She said she transitioned in December 2018. But absolutely. My mom would, and my stepfather as well. But they were, that's how that epitomizes how I was raised. Mm-hmm.
So this discipline led you to study.
Yes.
Grace.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I would say so. Definitely being very disciplined, being very focused. Mm-hmm. That was I was reared that way.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. From early age, I didn't become disciplined and focused when I became an adult. I was raised to be that.
Nice. So now that we have peace, Yazril Bay, peace to you, peace and respect. Just to let everyone know, I know you guys seeing me, hit the ad, the friend. I'm trying to friend you guys on Facebook. So mm-hmm. So that's me. So now let's go into, now that we have a brief history. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they want to hear what you have to say about the dehumanization through race and color. However you want to set that off.
Mm-hmm,
the floor is yours.
Yes, I want to set off by asking a question that I'll answer. Mm-hmm. How do we fight against racism? And we often hear that you have people, more is classified as nigger, colored, black, African American, continue to push that, we got to fight against racism. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Never give up the fight against racism. You know what I mean? So we got to stand against racism. And that's been beaten in us, fight against racism. And now, so, how you fight against racism?
How?
Teach the people the origin of the paradigm. Mm. This is dehumanization. When we talk about we fight against racism by teaching the people the origin of the dehumanizing paradigm. Mm. Let's go. So to fight against racism, I want to take this angle to get people's attention. To fight against racism, we got to go to 1684.
1684.
1684. Well, how going to 1684 going to help us fight against racism? Oh, well, it'll give you the origin of the paradigm. New the vision of the world. François Bernier. His new division of the earth whereby he classified the human family using non-nationality, non-pedigree, non-consanguineous, non-ancestral words: black, white, red, brown, and yellow. So this is how you fight against racism, by teaching the people the origin of the paradigm, and that how the paradigm steals our birthright, how it dehumanizes us. So through that social engineering concept, beginning with François Bernier with that structure, and then continued with Carl Linnaeus, and then further expanded by Johann Friedrich Blumenbach.
And what year
this is how that was. So you have Carl Linnaeus with his Systema Naturae and 12 editions from 1713 to 1732. Systema Naturae with 12 or 13 editions, 1713 to 1732. You have Johann. He was a Swedish naturalist. François Bernier was a French craniologist, and he lived in India or Hindustan for 9 years, and he studied the François Bernier. Going back to him, he studied the caste system. So he developed the concept by studying the caste system of India. So he came and then he wrote the book, The Invention of the Racial Classification. And that's where he came up, that's where he developed that new division of the earth in 1684. This is how you fight against racism. I know it's new for our people because they lack the knowledge. It's only because they lack the knowledge of the origin of the paradigm. They think it's real. Black, white. I remember when I was teaching in Camden School, and I was substituting. There was I'm gonna say this. There was a Moor classified as Negro colored black, and he was from we had a guest speaker. He was a guest speaker. And he was from Rutgers University, Department of Human Relations. Department of Human Relations at Rutgers University. And I remember his saying, I was standing at the door. This was a fifth grade class. He was a guest speaker. And I was standing in the back at the door. And I remember his saying during the course of his presentation, it doesn't matter what you call yourself, black, white, red, orange, or purple. Keep in mind, Rutgers University, Foreign Relations. I apologize, not human rights. Rutgers University Foreign Relations Department. I was heated. Man, I was singeing inside. You're from Rutgers University Foreign Relations Department, and you say to you say to the children, it doesn't matter what you call yourself, black, white, red, orange, or purple. And you've heard this before. Y'all heard this. This ain't new. This is not new. That loosely saying.
Yep.
And no matter who you are, black, white, red, purple, orange. You see that social engineering?
Yeah.
See, the dehumanization is done through social engineering. So with that social engineering, there's no thinking involved. It's no thinking. So our people are not rationalizing it. All right, this is what's called operative conditioning.
Mhm.
Pavlov's dog. You think that they were just going to use that on animals? That they're going to use they use an animal for testing to apply to humans. That's not just for animals, though. The operative conditioning, where they use Pavlov's dog bell, they ring a bell, he salivates. Ring a bell, salivates. But the dog was just used for experimentation that they applied for in training humans and animals. So the operative conditioning of black. Look what color are you? Black. There's no thinking. Our people, they're not thinking. They're not rationalizing. It's training. It's operative conditioning. We're just conscious of it. That's all. We're just conscious so we can rationalize. We can critically think about it. There's no thinking at all. I had students will walk up to me as I taught nationality to over 5,000 students in the Kansas City Public School. I ran my big mouth. I taught over 500 teachers, both Europeans and Moors classified nigger, color, black, and classified Spanish teachers. I ran my big mouth. I didn't keep quiet. I was known for talking. I was known for teaching. So students would ask, in teaching the students, about nationality and that of their Moorish nationality, and teaching that black's not a nationality. And then so they, like I said, Pavlov's dog again, operative conditioning. There's no thinking. What do you mean? So I recall students will walk up to me, come out their seats, grab my arm. They would grab my arm, grab my wrist, and hold my wrist to my face. Look at you, Mr. Bay. Look at you. You're black. Look at you. Remember, there's no thinking. See, now you're chuckling because you are aware. You're thinking about it. Once again, go back to Pavlov's dog. There's training, no thinking. That's social engineering.
Exactly.
So it's like, what do you mean we're not black? Look at you. Look at you. See that's conditioning. So I got it. So
that's a beautiful analogy right there.
Yes,
I read about that in Naeem Akbar's book, Breaking the Psychological Chains of Slavery, when he spoke about the Pavlov concept.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's true because you're trained basically out of your own natural element.
Thank you.
Like cognitive dissonance. That's all that is.
Cognitive dissonance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely so this is very strong. So it's going to take unity among conscious Moors, which doesn't exist. I'm gonna get on. I got you, conscious Moors. I'm gonna get on y'all. I'm gonna get on y'all, conscious Moors. Yes, I am. I'm gonna get on y'all. I can't get on unconscious Moors because they don't know.
Exactly.
So I got to get on conscious Moors with this unity, trying to outdo each other. And y'all, come on now. 33 years now for me. 33 years of observation of seeing conscious Moors trying to outdo each other, fighting each other, and basking each other. I mean, what happened? You hear
Yeah.
me?
Yep, I hear you now. Mhm.
I was trying. I answered the call when I didn't mean to. I was trying to. I hit the. Hey, I hit the red instead of. I hit the green instead of the red. Yes. So we're gonna need. We gotta work together. You don't see that among conscious Moors. You see, this, trying to outdo each other and who's better, and it's we gotta
Intellectual
move away from that.
masturbation. I call it intellectual masturbation. That's
It's
what it is.
intellectual masturbation. Yes,
That's what it is.
there's a lot of that among conscious Moors, man. A lot of that, and I've seen that for 33 years. And I we have to work through that, and the reason I'm mentioning that, it ties into what I'm saying, because in order for us to connect with unconscious Moors and teach them that because it's so strong, that dehumanization, the François Bernier's paradigm is so embedded, so ingrained. It's going to take a united effort among conscious Moors. It's not just a few of us. It's going to take where we working together and teaching. But yeah. Somebody calling me.
It's okay.
Yeah. So let me continue. Let me continue with the lesson. So we have here Dr. King. Dr. King said he had a dream that one day my 4 little children will grow up and live in a world where they not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream. So his dream was be judged by the content of thy character and not by the color of our skin.
Right.
Are we judged by our complexion? Really? Really?
That's real.
Now, are we? Are we being mistreated merely because of our complexion? They hate us merely because of our complexion? They hose us down merely because of complexion? They shoot us down merely because of our complexion? Meaning it's nothing else. It has nothing to do with anything else. It has nothing to do with that stolen our land. It has nothing to do with that they've buried our history. It has only to do with the complexion of our skin. Do they really believe that? Do conscious Moors truly in their hearts believe that?
I don't.
I don't think they believe that. That's the party line.
They fear your greatness. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's the no. But I'm saying conscious Moors. I'm raising the question: do you think conscious Moors? I mean, not conscious Moors. Do you think unconscious Moors, classified as Negro, colored, Black, African American,
Okay.
truly in their hearts believe that our mistreatment is solely because of our complexion? I don't think they believe that. That's the party line. That's that racism push party line. But I don't think they can't exactly put their, they know something that we don't know, our history. They do know that. They don't know what the history is, but they know that there's a lacking of our history, knowledge of who we are. All right. So, but that we're being judged by our complexion, that is definitely a misdirection, a cover-up, a disguise for the continuation of our subjugation. Let's look at Mariah Carey. I'm going to give up. Mariah Carey was on a show, and she was asked a question. Let me go right to it now. Mariah Carey was asked a question. She was on a talk show, and the host asked her this question: "What color are you?" Mariah's answer: "In this country, black." Really? She's answering, really? In this country, black. Really? My mother's Irish. My mother is Irish. She is like the Queen of Ireland. My father is black. He grew up in Harlem and served his country. His father's mother, my grandmother, is Venezuelan. So the word color, the etymology, that means the true meaning, and the legal meaning of the word color mean to hide and conceal, disguise, fake, artificial, distinguished from that which is real. How is it that how did the word color gain its constructed meaning of complexion, pigmentation, skin tone, shade, or hue? And that there you have this legal term, people of color, color people, colored. When someone looks like Donald Trump, they don't associate with that word color. They won't relate that word color to themselves. Like, no one will say Donald Trump is a man of color. So is the constructed meaning complexion or a certain complexion? Is the constructed meaning for the word color just merely complexion or a certain complexion? Because no one would say Donald Trump is a man of color. Once again, social engineering. I'm going to the social engineering aspect now. Let's go back. We're going back to that. Why don't people refer to Donald Trump as a man of color? Because the constructive meaning that's been applied to the word color is of a certain pigmentation that look like of our pigmentation. They won't relate to that. So they'll say, "Oh, Donald Trump don't have a color."
Now, what does that implicate in in law? What is the implications in law or socially when you are classified as a person of color?
What it does is it takes you out of the protection of law. It's dehumanizing. It affords you no international human rights recognition and protection. So what it does, it makes you dead in the eyes of the law. Similar to Motus, dead in the eyes of the law. So you there. So if you're talking human rights, you have to be what? Of a nation, one of who has a nationality, because a nationality ties a people to a nation state. So it actually keeps us in a subjugated dehumanizing state. And I want to continue to use the word subjugation. I'm gonna tell you why. I don't use the words loosely. I don't just use words randomly and loosely. I'm using the word subjugation to invoke international law. I won't say unlawful. Why? I'm explaining why. You will not hear me say unlawful. Because saying unlawful doesn't invoke international law. I'm going to continue to explain. By using the word subjugation, not only am I invoking international law, subjugation applies to a nation of people that's been subjugated by another nation of people, by another nation. See? So by using the word subjugation, hear me out, my brothers and sisters, please. By using the word subjugation, I am identifying our people as belonging to a nation that's been subjugated. Let me give an example. Hawaii. The native people of Hawaii, United States invaded Hawaii, the Kingdom of Hawaii, in 1893. That's subjugation. Subjugation and then we're talking international law. Subjugation in international law establishes a new title. So I will not say, because I know international law, United States is violating the native people of Hawaii. The United States is committing unlawful acts against the native people of Hawaii. I will not use that language. United States is subjugating. It makes a difference. Because when you use the word subjugation, it invokes international law, and that a state is subjugating a state. A state, United States, is subjugating a people, native people of Hawaii, that belongs to a state, Kingdom of Hawaii. That's why. I have to explain why I'm using words. We're talking international law here, so I won't say unconstitutional. I won't say unlawful. I won't say violating. I will use the specific word in international law to invoke that and to identify the fact that our people belong to a pre-existing nation that's been collapsed. It's important. Hear me out. I'm explaining why. This is why it's important for us to study international law. Don't use the word unconstitutional. Don't use the word violated. Don't use the word injured. Use the specific international law language, subjugation. Look it up. I don't want people to say Abdullah Bay said anything. Look up the word subjugation. Get international law books. Oppenheim. Get the Oppenheim's HOPPENHEIM. Volumes 1 and volumes 2. You want to go to volume 2 because that's the law of war. Volume 1 is the law of peace. Volume 2 is the law of war. So it'll be in volume 2, subjugation. Loss of sovereignty, post-millennium, military occupation, conquest, annexation. And when you see subjugation, it's not where it applies to an individual. Subjugation would not apply to Brother Ron alone. The word subjugation would apply to Ron and his people as a whole, belonging to a nation state that pre-existed. Just like the native people of Hawaii. That's why the use of the word subjugation and not violation and not unconstitutional and not injury and not harm. Please hear me out, my brothers and sisters. The words matter that we use. I'm talking international law level. Do I have y'all any questions before I go on? Do you have any questions?
You got any questions, Mike?
No, I'm actually listening. It sounds like, you know, sounds like a college course.
Well,
International law.
that's the purpose, because I have to teach. You have to
You
teach.
know, and he's saying with the power of the language, the words, and you know, subjugation, everything else. You hear the rootness of etymology and everything else that he's saying, legal terms.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And how
yeah.
how I'm being very meticulous, absolute detail, because I have to be, and particularly in giving instructions and explaining. Well, and I'm not saying, well, don't say that. I got to explain why not to say it. Why not to use unconstitutional? Why not to say unlawful? Why not to say illegal? Why not to say, illegal, unlawful? Why not to say injury? All right, because that they don't apply to it doesn't invoke the concept and the principle that would apply to a whole nation of people that's been what? Subjugated by a state. We're not talking our people being injured by people, but no, by a state. China injuring the French people. China subjugating the people of France. Let me give examples now. China subjugating the people of France. China, a state, subjugating the people of France. The people of France belong to a state, France, or Germany, subjugating the Russian people. The Russian people belong to a state, Russia. So that's what that invokes. You wouldn't say China is violating the people of France. No. It's subjugation when you're talking about a whole nation of people, the entire nation. That's called subjugation in international law.
Now, are you saying a state or are you saying state?
State, S-T-A state, A state, S-T-A-N, S-T-A-T-E. Okay. A state is an international person in international law. China's a state, a state, not S state, not S state, a state.
Right.
France is a state. Germany is a state. In international law, the modern constructive meaning, and I'm going to explain. The modern constructive meaning that's used today, that's been used since 1648. Since 1648, the modern definition of state that's been used in international law is an international person. How did this modern definition come about? Great, I'm glad you asked the question. His name is Hugo van Groot. Hugo van Groot was a Dutch jurist, international jurist in the late 1500s. He constructed the modern definition that's used in United Nations, that was used by the League of Nations, that's used by all these nation states. He constructed that definition. That definition was adopted at the Peace of Westphalia, the Conference of Westphalia that ended the 30-year war. And so the conference met from 1644 to 1648. And at that conference, they adopted Hugo van Groot's definition of state and applied that within the treaty called the Peace of Westphalia, which is part of modern international law. I'm being very detailed. As Brother Mike said, he hears etymology, he hears the semantics, he hears the, how a particular word came about, exactly. That's important that we teach that, because meanings don't just come out of thin air. There's various meanings there's different meanings that are constructed over the period of time, just like the word sovereign. The word sovereign has been given several constructed meanings over the period of 500 years. So from 13 through the 1300s has one meaning. 1400s has a different meaning. 1500s has a different meaning. 1600 has a different meaning. 1700 has a different meaning. So I just want to offer, because I'm going to bring my etymology and semantics knowledge always to the platform.
Got you. Okay. So now, as far as how to study and think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with international law and just law in your country, you have to think in separate ways, the way you're explaining it, right? Because certain words mean certain things in different arenas in law. So how do you, I mean, this is like a study that you have to stay on top of to really understand and be proficient at explaining yourself when in these different arenas.
Now, Brother Ron, you're talking what? All right, I'm glad you mentioned that. You're talking what I was talking about. Not you're talking different meanings in different arenas.
Right.
I wasn't talking different meanings in different arenas. I was talking different meanings in different time periods.
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned that so we can articulate. I want the audience to hear me. This is great. Thank you for saying that, because it gives me opportunity to explain what you were saying and what I'm saying. We're saying two different things, but we're going to bring it together. Okay. You're talking about different meanings in different arenas. I was talking about different meanings during different time periods.
Okay.
As I mentioned the word sovereign, the meaning of the word sovereign has different meanings during the different centuries. So during the 1300s, there's a different meaning for it. Then a different meaning was constructed during the 1500s, 1400s. A different meaning was constructed during the 1500s. A different meaning was constructed during the 1600s. So that's different. Those are different meanings during different time periods. You're correct in what you're saying about different meanings on different levels. So we want the audience to know both. Different meanings during different time periods, different meanings in different levels. Absolutely.
Okay.
This is our people need this knowledge, bro. Brothers, they need this knowledge. They need to learn how to think epistemologically. So what I'm doing is giving them the application of etymology and semantics and how it's being applied in these arenas that we're not aware of.
So being that the words change in time, do they still matter in the future? So if, let's say, if it was...
Oh, I love.
Okay. So you got me.
I got you. Come on, please. Come on.
Yeah. So let's say a word came out and the definition came out in 1930. Does it still apply in 2025?
Oh, I love you, brother. I can hug you. Oh, I can. Thank you. You bring the best out of me. Thank you. I need that. Yes. Now, you know me. Anybody who knows me, I will never say yes if I can't support it. If I say yes, you already know that I can support it. Right. All right. There's an article The Original Meaning of the Commerce Clause by Randy Barnett. The Original Meaning of the Commerce Clause by Randy Barnett. And during their end ad article, you'll see that during a court case, a Supreme Court case, where they used Johnson's dictionary, 1700s, Johnson's dictionary written in the 1700s, used to define the word commerce. So you're absolutely correct, because etymology is the history, origin, and true meaning of words. I'm going to continue. You have two principles of constitutional interpretation: originalists and constructionalists. An originalist would be me. I would be an originalist, meaning that the meaning in which the time that you interpret the Constitution or interpret a passage and use the meaning at the time in which it was interpreted. So that means you'll get books during the time period in which it was interpreted. You get dictionaries, and at the time period in which the word was, in which it was drafted. You get dictionaries. You get literature at the time period in which it was drafted. A constructionist would be, well, society changes, so we need to construct new meanings. That's what's called a constructionist, originalist, and a constructionist. And you'll see that there are cases where they use, in fact, for a period of 100 years, up until the early 1900s, the Supreme Court justices use etymology as the basis of their interpretation. What changed? I'm glad you asked that question. Presidents, what happens? And Randy Barnett, I learned this by reading the Original Meaning of the Commerce Clause by Randy Barnett, a constitutional a lawyer who's a professor at Georgetown University, where Patrick Ewing went. And so I learned a lot from, because I actually studied that. I don't just read. I studied. I didn't read it, just popcorning. I don't do that. I don't know what that is. I don't do casual reading. I'm analyzing, studying it. So that's why I can speak like this on it, because I've took it apart and analyzed. And so what in that article, he explained that how it happened where during a period of how it changed from originalist constructionist. Well, presidents, you would have presidents, that would, because presidents would appoint justices. So a justice dies or retires. So a president, will get a judge, to nominate a judge who is what a constructionist or originalist, right? That you may have for a period of say 30 straight years, where you have United States presidents who are constructionist mindset. So so when they during their presidency, there's a vacant seat in the Supreme Court. He explained that because nothing just happens. Yeah. So he explained the process. I said, oh, so when I read that, I said it opened up a lot of portals. I said, oh my goodness, this is deep. I said, wow. I learned so much by reading, because I didn't have a concept of originalist or constructionalist.
Yeah,
I didn't even know about that until reading that article.
Yeah, that like
you just bust our heads open, because what's so great about it, with that comment being said, I look back at every presidential race. Their main focus was the votes, but they always focus on the seats of the judge, who gets the most. And I'm like, yo, to see how they would maneuver around the law, whatever they can do. And just now we seeing not
That's it.
glorifying Trump's
That's
presidency,
it.
but it's just that his focus
That's
was
it.
just the courts, was the Supreme Court seats. That's what he focused on. Like, I got to get the Senates, I got to get the judges, you know, and that's all he did. So that's how he's maneuvering around the law like that. They label him the king because he figured it out.
Exactly, because they'll apply what they do, because they apply a particular constitutional interpretation. Once again, originalist, constructionalist. This hear me out, my brothers and sisters. You have constitutional interpretation methods. It matters which one is employed. Let me give you another case. In the Foster versus Nielsen. This is Foster versus Nielsen. And this was based off the interpretation of the 1818 treaty between Spain and the United States. In that treaty, Spain ceded Florida to United States in 1818 treaty. So it was Spain granted land grant. Spain granted Spanish land grants to Spanish subjects in Florida. So the argument was that they did Spain cede the land to United States before this particular land grant was granted. The person made the claim that he would be protected under the treaty because because Spain still had control of the land when it was granted the land grant. So in Foster versus Nielsen, the English version of the treaty was read. Hear me out. And so, which was an error. Why? You'll learn that was an error in Thompson versus United States. And Thompson Perchman. And Perchman versus Thompson. And Perchman versus Thompson, they made it clear that was an error. And reading the English version of the treaty was error. Why? Because the Spanish version of the treaty gives us a different interpretation. So they did in the Foster versus Nielsen, the international canon of the principles of interpretation was not applied. But in I think it was United States versus Perchman, the international law, the international canon principles of interpretation was applied. The Spanish version of the treaty was read. That's what's and my brothers and sisters, you know, y'all. I know I'm a nerd, but I do that because I can educate. I can give examples. I can answer questions. I can give references upon references as I answer questions. I'm not coming out of thin air. I can give cases. I can give other references upon reference and answering questions. So I'm showing them the value of study.
Right.
How it will empower us.
Real quick, I just want to say this. Hey, Mike, Paul Dyer, you know what I mean? Paul Dyer.
I got you. I got you, bro.
All right. So continue, brother.
Yes. All right. Before I continue, do y'all have any questions? Because we all tying this in to when we're tying this, it all ties into the topic because the topic is about dehumanization, the use of color and race, but that is through what? Through social engineering, through constructing a false paradigm, and it's social engineering a false paradigm, you know, to the society. So we're talking language. So the language discussion is paramount. Absolutely. We're not even off the topic. Because your questions, your questions, Ali, brought further value to the discussion.
Now, let me ask you this: to study, the proper way to study, to like really understand not only English but the way to present yourself, write letters, documents, and things like that, to proper present yourself. How should we study to be
All right.
you know what I mean? To be in
All right. So it's all right. So what and how one would study is they would have to study fields of study. They would have to study grammar. They would have to. You study. This is how to study. Good question. Study grammar. I'm just giving. So grammar is the building block to reading comprehension. Because if you're studying, you're reading, but can you analyze what you're reading?
Right.
Can you break it up to its component parts? Do you know the principles of grammar? As grammar is the building block to reading comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
So and I wouldn't give, like you say, give instructions to study. It would be grammar. It would be etymology. It would be semantics. It would be fields of study that would aid one into studying. Not a class on how to study. Like, all right, let me explain why not a class on how to study, because that would not, there's no value in that. Let me explain. There's no value in that. Someone who doesn't know grammar. How would a class, all right, someone who is poor in grammar,
Mm-hmm.
how would a class on how to study? I mean, you're not teaching grammar. You're not teaching them grammar. How would a class on how to study help them? Grammar is very important.
Right.
I study grammar and I teach grammar. I'm not saying grammar. I study grammar and I teach grammar. Basic and advanced grammar that I do know. I know the value of grammar and how it aids in reading comprehension. So if they're poor grammar, and you ain't teaching them grammar, how are you teaching them how to study? All right, let me give an example. Ron, this something just basic. Ron threw the ball. Ron threw the ball. Who threw the ball? Ron.
Right.
What did Ron throw? So Ron is the subject. Verb threw, past tense, because that gives you time. Past tense, not present tense, not future tense. All right, so now we're looking at what? Tense now. Time, tense. What did he throw? Ball, which is the direct object. Now I ask this question. When did Ron throw the ball?
He threw the ball in the past.
But when? All right, in the past. So where did he throw the ball? Where did Ron throw the ball?
You got me a little stumped. I'm kind of pardon me more. I'm trying to set up the next interview.
Oh, no problem. I got you. No, yes. So let me. All right. So the answer is the information is not provided. Why did he throw it? Where did he throw it? The information is not provided. All that's provided is that what did Ron throw? A ball. Not when, not where, not how. Right? So that's in grammar. So we can give that information with grammar. How he threw it, where he threw it, the time. And that's grammar. That's the knowledge of grammar. So someone who has a poor knowledge of grammar, because that's studying. Right. I'm just giving I thank you, Brother Ron.
So that means the words have a significant value.
Yes.
However, without the grammar, that you
Right.
can't really hold the words.
Thank you. Thank you. That's Professor Burton, the one who taught me. You sound like him. He said that. He said exactly that. Professor Burton, my etymology professor, said exact that. I remember I was at Professor Burton's house. This was in 1990, maybe my first semester of 1998. 1998. I was at his house. I think October, November 1998. And I said, Professor Burton, I want to improve my my reading, comprehension. He says, yeah, because he said, yeah, you do it through grammar. I think I was studying grammar at the time. This was the second semester with Professor Burton. So it was 1999. And he said, yeah, you're doing it by studying grammar. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, you can improve your reading by studying grammar. I said, what? Man. And guess what? He was right. And he said exactly what you said. Because he emphasized the importance of grammar and the value of it. Remember, it's etymology teacher, but and he said how you said it, he said it just like that. He sure did.
So studying grammar is key, and
Absolutely.
And knowing where to put the words, that's all a part of grammar. So
Absolutely. Because all right, so if you want to convey a thought, absolutely, Brother Ron. All right, now you want to convey a thought on paper. What don't you have to use grammar?
Now
To convey a thought, you have to use to even speak it. To speak it, you're using grammar.
Okay.
To interpret, you're using the principles of grammar.
Right.
Ron threw the ball. Now, I just want to do something that's simple. Because you got to get something that's simple. But like I said, I asked the question, where did Ron throw the ball? The answer is not provided. Information is not provided.
Right.
But I'm saying that you can construct that, Ron, through grammar.
Right.
You can add. I can add an adverbial clause of time. Adverbial clause of time. I can add an adverb. So how do you throw the ball? That's an adverb. A singular adverb. Adverbial time, and you can add a clauses. Adverbial clause of time. So when you're proficient in the grammar, you can dance it. You can make it dance. You can break sentences apart, brother. My brothers and sisters. I did not know I could not break down long sentences. I remember when I met Talib Bay in October 1993. And in the older law dictionaries, in the Black's Law dictionaries, in the older one, the 4th edition, 3rd edition, they have long sentences. The definitions, and they have long sentences. I had a difficulty in reading long sentences. Not now. What helped me? Grammar. By studying clauses, that noun clauses, adjective clauses, adverbial clauses, phrases, gerunds, participles, infinitives.
Now this is where
sentence structure. Go ahead, Ron.
Right. This is where I personally, I would say, believe our people, Moors that call themselves black, right?
Yes.
Being that I would say black culture, what's ingrained in black culture is slang. And this is, I think, what keeps us behind, because it perpetuates bad grammar, poor speaking, etc.
Yep.
And in order for you to like really hone in on the skill of speaking well, you have to speak it all the time.
You got to
Right.
practice it. You got to do it. I mean, absolutely. You got to do it.
Right.
I mean, that's just absolutely.
Right. So
Yeah,
I think the slang further perpetuates the Negro state of mind and legal, you know, what they call a civil little mortus.
Absolutely. And we don't control anything, so we can't we don't control anything, so we can't afford to be that way.
Right.
We gotta. That's not. That doesn't. Does that continues to oppress us?
Right.
Or you know, they like said the subjugate keeps us in the subject. That perpetuates the subjugation state.
Right. Now, I want to know, how did this happen? Like, where slang and being thugs and dark thinking and speaking and negativity, how did that become such a anchor in our community? Like, was that designed? Because it all kind of like came together at a certain period, for lack of a better term, like maybe around like the 80s and things like that.
There was a meeting. There was in the like 1990. There was in mid 80s. So I'm gonna back up. Then I'll go to the meeting. In the mid 80s, the prisons were privatized. This all ties in to I'm answering your question. The prisons were privatized. And so the corporations have a contract with the states, and the states are in the contract. There are stipulations. There's conditions, stipulations. The states are obligated to keep the prisons full. The states were breaching their contract by not keeping the prisons full.
Right.
So the master plan was that meeting, 1990, with rappers. They didn't attack heavy metal. They did not attack heavy metal. They did not attack hard rock. They attacked rap. Keep in mind, they attacked rap. There was a meeting in 1990. Some rappers were there. So to what? To put the criminal element into rap. That was planned. They had no choice. You rap this. No, you rap this or you don't rap at all. You rap this or you don't rap at all. So the brothers are not lying when they say, well, I had to do it, because you have brothers that say that used to in interviews. Rappers, absolutely. They ain't lying. That was the plan. So was to criminalize rap music, to put that hard criminal element, to implant that in our children with that criminology and stuff. That's how that's that. Because you said in the 80s, and I mean, you're right. So that was a strong concerted effort. Nothing just happens. That was by planned.
Now, someone said, speaking on slang, can you explain connotative and denotative?
Yes. There are scholars. All right, let me do it this way first, and then I'll go into that. There are scholars. Denotation, denote. So it means mark, point. So to mark. So you mark. So you or designate. Mark or designate. Glasses. Eyeglasses. All right, so eyeglasses is the term. So you have the thought, the object, all right, and the words. They have the thought, the word, and the object. So the word is eyeglasses. The object is what I'm holding in my hand. I say, what does the word glasses denote? What does the word glasses denote? And someone says, what does the word eyeglasses denote? And someone says eyeglasses. That's the wrong answer. You said the word eyeglasses. All you had to do was point to it. Because the word eyeglasses does not denote the word eyeglasses. The word eyeglasses denotes what I'm holding in my hand. Just point to it. Just point to it. I mean, you're pointing to it. To designate, to mark.
Okay.
All right. So let me explain connotation. Connotation is figurative, like so we're looking at let's say rock and the actual object rock. So you have the word rock and the object rock. So the word rock denotes the object rock. Now we're talking connotation. Ron is a rock. Well, we know that Ron is not an actual rock. So I'm using rock connotatively. Associative meaning, strength. So there's associative meaning. So rock is hard. So I'm using an associative or connotative meaning and applying that to Ron's character. To Ron is a rock, and that is that is what's known as a metaphor. A simile would be the use of like or as. Ron is as a rock or like a rock. That's a simile. A metaphor is Ron is a rock. Now, what's the difference between a simile and metaphor? When you use a metaphor, as in Ron is a rock, that is his character is strongly resembles that is of a rock that's hard and strong, strong. Whereas Ron is like a rock, it's not as strong. If I really want to make my point of describing Ron's character from a strong point, I will use a metaphor, not a simile. See, I'm not just explaining what I can explain why.
Okay. All right. Chat people in the chat, y'all following this? You got to pay attention. You can't be watching TV and watching this.
Oh, no, they don't watch no TV while I'm on.
Okay. So now, great explanation, great demonstration. Now we are gonna close out now. However, would love to have you come back on to keep explaining this.
Oh, I'm gonna be every second and fourth Wednesday. Yeah, okay. I have my other people that be coming with me, and brother Israel Bay, and brother King L Bay, and brother Vicerious, ill, and So, but yeah. I might do the next one. I might do the next one with brother Israel. Brother Israel will do it, and I will do the next one together. That'll be the fourth Wednesday.
Right. So check. I hope y'all got what the brother displayed today. Now we understand who we have on the check-in every second and fourth
Wednesday.
Is all about etymology, grammar, words, etc.
International law, jurisprudence, legal principles. Yes, yeah. I got some heavy hitters with me. I got some heavy hitters.
Indeed. Thank you, brother, for coming out this evening. We really appreciate you. See y'all on Friday. We have a live from the 5% Nation, Wise Asia. She's coming up to tell her story. Saturday, we got the Moorish brother, Shah El, on Saturday. Sunday, we got brother Eric Muhammad from the Nation of Islam.
All right.
Thank you for coming out this evening, brother Abdullah. And we are out of here. Peace.